Well, good afternoon, Colonel Phil Walsh, United States Marine Corps, the president of the Falcons Landing chapter of the Military Officers of Virginia at Falcons Landing in Sterling, Virginia. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you, Lincoln. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Well, it's great having you on this series of the Virginia Council of Chapters interviews with our chapter presidents, and we'll get right into it, Phil. Indeed, you are the president of the MOAA Falcons Landing chapter, Sterling, Virginia. Tell us about your career and current life.
Okay, well, again, thank you for the opportunity to share about our MOAA chapter here at Falcons Landing. My own career goes back a ways. I was born and raised in northern New Jersey, born in Elizabeth, and went through my high school years in Rahway, which is just a little bit south of Elizabeth, made famous by a documentary about the Rahway prison years ago. You may recall that. In any case, when I graduated from high school, I did not have the opportunity to go to college, and I was looking for adventure, and I and a few friends decided the Marine Corps offered adventure. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps a few months after I graduated from high school and went to Parris Island and became a United States Marine in September of 1956. I spent a couple of years at Camp Lejeune as a radio operator. I decided I wanted to become a radio technician. To do that, I had to extend my enlistment, which I did, and I went to electronics school, the Naval Electronics School in Great Lakes, Illinois, where I enjoyed going on weekend liberty to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That turned out to be a fortuitous experience because a year after that, I had the opportunity to apply for the NESEP program, NESEP, Naval Enlisted Scientific Education Program. And that gave Marines and sailors an opportunity to go to college and get a degree in either engineering or some physical science. The Navy and the Marine Corps at that time were looking to have more technically qualified officers in the ranks. So I said, that sounds like a great deal. I applied for the NESEP program, and I was in the first NESEP class in 1958. So I was offered the opportunity to go to college, and they asked me where you wanted to go to college. And I said, I want to go to MIT. And they looked at my high school record and they said, what's your second choice, young Marine? And I said, Marquette University. And because I had really liked Marquette and I liked everything about it, good Jesuit school. So anyway, off I went in 1958. That's where I met my bride-to-be of some 52 years in my life. She was a native Milwaukee girl. I loved my time at Marquette. I graduated with a degree in civil engineering. And off I went to serve as a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps in 1962. And I went into communications, which I enjoyed a lot, electronics, which I enjoyed a lot. So I became an operational communications officer for probably probably half to 2/3 of my military career. I served 2 tours in Vietnam, one early in Vietnam. I was the comm officer for a direct support artillery battalion in Da Nang. We deployed from Okinawa into Vietnam at Da Nang. I went back to Vietnam a second time after I went to the Naval Postgraduate School. And I served as an advisor to the Vietnamese Marine Corps for my second tour, communications advisor. So with my graduate degree in electrical engineering from the Naval Postgraduate School, I had to do a payback tour. I had a tour with the Defense Department Naval Special Projects Group, which was all about the sensors, ground sensors that were part of the McNamara Wall, which was a big development effort at the time. That was a very exciting tour. But I went on and spent a total of 34 years in the Marine Corps. I rose to the rank of colonel. I became, in the end, a program manager down at Quantico for all the Marine Corps' communications and navigation equipment. Had a great time in the Marine Corps. My wife enjoyed it immensely. We had 4 children. One highlight of my career was a 3-year tour in Rota, Spain. I was the CEO of the Marine Signal Intelligence Company that's stationed in Rota, Spain as part of the Naval Security Group. So we had a wonderful 3 years and traveled all over Europe. My kids remember all of that to this day. So it was a very, very rewarding career. And in the end, I spent probably the last 8 years or so in systems acquisition, working out of Quantico, and I got to know a couple organizations, IDA being one, the Institute for Defense Analysis. They were doing some studies that I became a part of as an active duty Marine, and the Marine Corps was involved in, and I liked the kind of work they did. I enjoyed immensely the challenge of working tough issues from a joint command and control perspective. So when I decided to retire in 1990, I applied to for a job in a number of companies, but IDA was one of them, and I was offered a job at IDA, and I went to work for IDA in Alexandria in 1990, 3 weeks after I had retired. So that was the start of my second career in 1990, and I work for IDA to this day. I'm now an adjunct, so I don't work full time. I work not very much, but I did work full time up through about the year 2016. Now, just going back a little bit more, my wife and I decided back in 2013 that I lived in Fairfax, Virginia, where I was working for IDA, and decided we wanted to probably move into one of the military retirement communities. There's 3 here in the Washington, D.C. area, Falcons Landing being one, Carl Vinson Hall being the other, and the Fairfax at Fort Belvoir being the third. So we decided we liked Falcons Landing a lot, liked its location, liked the people here. So we got on the waiting list and for an apartment or a cottage at Falcons Landing in 2013. Unfortunately, my wife got seriously ill with a lung infection in 2013. She was not able to survive. So after she passed away in early 2014, I decided I wanted to come to Falcons Landing anyway as a single, which I could do. So I and my 4 children spent 6 months getting our big house in Fairfax ready to sell. We sold it, downsized, planned to move out here to Falcons Landing as a single. I was offered a cottage in the spring of 2014. So by August of 2014, or September, I should say, I had sold the house in Fairfax with the help of my 4 wonderful children, moved out here to Falcons Landing and started a whole new life. This was in the summer of 2014. So making a connection to MOAA, I discovered early on, after coming to Falcons Landing, that we had our own MOAA chapter here. I had never been associated. I have been a member of MOAA for many, many years, as a lot of us have been, while on active duty, but I never really had any strong connection. I never had any connection to a chapter. So I immediately joined the chapter here and got involved in the chapter at Falcons Landing. I became, I guess, one of the vice presidents somewhere along the line and served multiple years in that capacity. I also got involved in the resident council here at Falcons Landing. That's when I was still working full-time, and I decided I was going to stop working full-time, and I wanted to get involved in Falcons Landing. I was in good health, interested, thought I could contribute, so I decided to run for the resident council in 2017, I guess it was, and was elected to the council. So that pretty much occupied my time for 3 years, from 18 to 20 through 20. And in my last year on the resident council, I was the president of the resident council. So once I completed that, my 3 years on here at Falcons Landing, if you're on the resident council, you agree to serve for 3 years. And I did that. And after my 3 years was completed, I decided, okay, let me give MOAA a turn. And I agreed to succeed Bob Manning a year ago as the president of our MOAA chapter here. So that's what I did, and that sort of brings us up to date.
Indeed. Right. And over to Falcons Landing, operated by the Air Force Retired Officers Community, Falcons Landing is community said to be of common bonds and extraordinary living. Can you share a bit more about Falcons Landing community?
Well, sure. Like it's really a special place. It's, yes, founded in 1996 by a group of retired Air Force generals, and became a CCRC, a continuing care retirement community. So we have all three levels of care here at Falcons Landing: independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing care. We have a beautiful campus, which you've seen, with 5 big apartment buildings and then cottages surrounding the apartment buildings down at the bottom of the hill. Located just a few miles north of Dulles Airport, right a mile from the Potomac River, so it's a beautiful setting. We have retired military officers here from all 4 services, probably about as many Air Force, Army, and Navy, equal numbers, and then a smaller number of Marines, of course. We also have some people from senior DOD retired people and CIA retired people, State Department. So it's a very broad community, but the common values, common bonds is very meaningful here, with the heritage that we all share in the service. And we come here and the people are like family. We all share values. We all have the same kind of interests. We all have a sense of patriotism, and that all comes together in a very nice way. We consider ourselves family. It's a wonderful place to live, and we have now about 500. I just had a doorbell ring. Can I just take 1 minute? I think it's something important, Link. I'll be right with you. Oh, I'm on Zoom. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, take care. I'm back. Can you hear me and see me?
We can.
I apologize for that. That was Bob Manning, whom you know well.
Absolutely right.
We're working our Veterans Day program, and he gave me the final slide deck.
Immediate.
But just to wind that up, it's a wonderful place to be. I'm so glad I came here. There's so much to do, a lot of activities, and it's just a whole new life for me, and for people like me who are widowed. It's a chance to socialize and meet people and share our experiences, do a lot of things together. We do a lot of travel for those who like to travel. We have a lot of activities here. So it's a great life. And MOAA is a big part of our life here.
Right. And over to the Falcons Landing chapter. It is indeed an award-winning chapter that is co-located within the Falcons Landing community. Phil, can you give us a brief overview of the chapter?
Well, certainly. So the chapter was established by General John Puste, retired U.S. Air Force, who's still here, still lives here. That was back in the 2009-2010 timeframe. And it's grown ever since. We've done a lot of good work here. It have some very, very accomplished people who have served as part of our leadership here in the chapter. Right now, we have about 200 members in the chapter, again, from all services. I've got a few notes here I'll share with you. So our chapter is a little bit unique in the sense that we have a number of military widows, obviously, that live here at Falcons Landing. Right now, the military widow community, that's actually part of our MOAA chapter, number is about 62. So of the 262 are military widows. You might think that's a pretty good percentage. And we did initially, we were established as a 501c19 military nonprofit organization from the IRS perspective. And in order to have that status, you have to have at least 75% of your members veterans of the military. So with the military widows being a fairly large percentage of our chapter, we decided some time ago to form an auxiliary. And our military widows actually we make members of the auxiliary, not members of the chapter itself, but they enjoy all the same rights and privileges and benefits. That way we keep our IRS C19 status intact. And we actually, in a couple of years ago, have opened up the auxiliary to not just widows of military, but the wives, the spouses of current chapter members. So that expands our auxiliary numbers. And we also opened it up to other people in Falcons Landing who want to join in and help with the volunteer work that the auxiliary does. So the biggest function of the auxiliary here at Falcons Landing is to coordinate and do all the volunteer work for our healthcare center, the assisted living and the nurse and the skilled nursing care center. So that's a big job, and our members put in several hundred hours a month, every month, in doing all the different things for people who live in our health center. So going back to the main chapter, I'll just give you the list of positions that we have on our board. So of course we have our officers, a president, first vice president, who is also our legislative affairs person. That's Jim Mullen, who is a former president, by the way, of Falcons Landing. Our second vice president for programs, that position is vacant right now. Secretary, Jenny Puste, who is actually General Puste's wife, and treasurer, who is Tom Owens. And then on our board also our immediate past president, who is Bob Manning. He served actually for 3 years before this year. And the directors that we have a membership director. We have the head of the auxiliary as a member of our board. We have director for surviving spouse affairs. We have speakers bureau, and I can talk to any of these. We have public affairs. We have JROTC program director. We have our LVFS program, which I'll talk about at some length probably in a few minutes. That's the Loudoun Veterans and Family Support program that we have instituted to help local Loudoun County veterans. We have a rep to the Community Engagement Board that has recently been stood up here in Loudoun County, Virginia. And we have a director of our gatherings, which I'll talk about. Those are large guest speaker kind of events for all the residents here at Falcons. And then we have a member at large. So those are our board of directors, some 12 or so people that make the chapter run and execute the programs that we have.
Indeed, Falcons Landing chapter is involved with local high school scholarships and assisting veterans in need. Can you detail a bit more about both programs?
Surely, Link. So with regard to JROTC, we have been connected with two high schools in the local area for quite some time now. One is the Chantilly Academy. That's an Air Force JROTC unit at Chantilly High School. They actually draw students into the JROTC program from the surrounding areas. So there's kids there from more than just Chantilly High School. That's an Air Force program. And then we also are connected to the Navy program at Loudoun County High School, which is also a big program. And they also draw students from surrounding high schools. Both of those programs, we have sponsored scholarships for those graduating cadets for some time now. We just recently took over sponsorship of an Army JROTC unit at South Lakes High School just this past summer. So we now enjoy good professional and community relationship with three high schools, Army, Navy, and Air Force. We award scholarships to outstanding graduating cadets each spring from those three high schools. We also give leadership medals to outstanding cadets in those programs. We rely on the schools, the head of the program and the faculty to select the winners of both the scholarships and the leadership awards. And we have different involvement with them. For example, this coming Friday on Veterans Day, we have the Chantilly Honor Guard, Color Guard come up and be part of our Veterans Day ceremony. So it's great to have a relationship with those young kids, and we talk to them, and it's really amazing to see the enthusiasm and the caliber of kids that are signing up to go on to become officers in our military. And I might add, it's amazing how many women are in those ranks. So it's exciting to see them all perform and do so well. The LVFS program, I think you asked about that. So that program is also somewhat unique. Back in about the 2015 timeframe, there were members here in our chapter that were also parishioners at the local community Lutheran church. And that church had long been looking for ways to support veterans. So people just got together and say, how can we support veterans in a more proactive way, a more tangible way? And we created an actual partnership. We, the Falcons Landing MOAA chapter and the Community Lutheran Church, entered into a partnership where we would create a fund of money that would be dedicated to assisting local veterans who, for one reason or another, are in primarily financial distress. And we all can relate to that. So we had people who actually became aware of veterans who were in distress, and we contacted them, and through the Community Lutheran Church, which actually holds the fund and writes the checks, we were able to assist a number of veterans just through contact, if you will, informal contact. Loudoun County, along the way, initially had a part-time person on the Loudoun County staff, on the actual government person. And that person started to become very active in the veteran support and started to make us aware of people who needed assistance. He was a good go-to guy to identify the need, and then we would come and help solve the need. Eventually, that became a full-time position in Loudoun County board, and it is now filled. That position is filled by a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel by the name of Tom Grant, and he spends all his waking hours dealing with veterans who find out about him. They come to him. People in need are identified. And then he goes out in other VSOs in Loudoun County, in addition to us, the church and MOAA chapter, the partnership that I mentioned. We have a VFW chapter. We have 7 or 8 other veterans organizations that have come together, also through the engagement board that we now have in Loudoun County. So this whole group of VSOs that has some resources and is willing to contribute resources to help veterans in need, that is now all coordinated by Tom Grant, the county official, who learns of the needs. He goes out, contacts all of us who have some resources, and we figure out who's going to help for how much, and that program goes on a daily basis. I see all the message traffic that goes on. We have a guy in our chapter by the name of Howard Shue, who's one of the guys back in 2015 that started this whole program. And he and one of the guys from the church decide how much we're going to give to in a particular case. They have that whole process it's very mature, and it works very smoothly, and it's constantly, day in and day out, there's cases where we identify a veteran in need. We identify who can help among all the VSOs in Loudoun County, and we do that. And the program gets bigger every year, so it's very rewarding. Veteran support has become a big focus for our chapter here at Falcons Landing, and that's our principal way we do that right now.
What are some of the events that Falcons Landing chapter hosts on an annual basis?
Well, the 2 big events that we host are Veterans Day and Memorial Day. So Veterans Day coming up this week on Friday. We have a program, and it's for all residents at Falcons Landing. We host the program in the ballroom. The ballroom typically is filled. We have almost 500 residents here at Falcons Landing. So we do a remembrance. Oftentimes at Veterans Day, we'll have a special remembrance. Last year, we had a special remembrance of all. We had a group of about 7 or 8 World War II veterans still living here at Falcons Landing. We gave them special recognition. This year, we're honoring 2 particular veterans who we're calling our eldest veterans at Falcons Landing, 2 veterans who are both 103 years old. And one is Colonel Herb Stern, who was written up in the MOAA magazine. He's a veteran of the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. And the second veteran is a Navy captain, retired Navy captain by the name of Dale Reed. So we're going to honor them, especially this coming Friday at our Veterans Day ceremony. But it's a really a nice program, and we have music and we have videos, and we show Ronald Reagan and his immemorable tribute to the military. We read the current president's Veterans Day message. So and we serve refreshments at the end. So all in all, it's very well received and very much looked forward to here at Falcons Landing. Memorial Day is, we do something similar, only obviously we talk about the history of Memorial Day, and we have poppies, and we tell the story of the poppy lady. And I think it was last year we called out especially all the residents of Falcons Landing, the widows of those who have died in service. And that was a group, large group. So it's a very special day as well.
Along with 16 other chapters in Virginia, Phil, Falcons Landing is a member of the Virginia Council of Chapters. To this membership, can you comment on the value of VCOC membership to include the ongoing state and federal level legislative advocacy by VCOC?
I'd be happy to, Link. So I have to admit, I'm just becoming real familiar with the VCOC since I've been elected president. And I've been to several VCOC meetings, both in person and on Zoom, getting through the pandemic, of course, in the last couple of years. But clearly, the main the main area that we see a significant contribution to our work is in the area of legislative affairs. I know that's a big focus of VCOC. Your legislative chair, Monty Zimmerman, is really a guy who inspires activity in that area. He knows what the issues are, and we look to him and to the rest of your staff and you for leadership in that area. You know what goes on in the Virginia State Legislature, you know the people, and you know the issues. And without you leading the way and making us aware and educating us along the way, we'd be floundering, frankly, in how to help. And you now show us the way to help, and we're really happy to do that, because this is really the MOAA mission. The MOAA has a noble mission to help those serving, to help those who have served in the past and those who have survived. And there's so much of that is tied up into entitlements and what our government does for veterans and for the active duty military, of course. So we look to you to keep us apprised of what the issues are and how we can help. And it's you have our admiration for that, you and Marty in particular.
In closing, Colonel Phil Walsh, president of the Falcons Landing chapter in Sterling, Virginia. Sir, the floor is yours. Anything else you would like to spotlight about Falcons Landing?
Well, I think I probably covered the highlights. I'm very proud to be the president of this chapter. It has a great legacy. I attended the annual meeting last week in Kansas City. That was my first annual MOAA meeting. Getting to know more people all the time, understanding it's a tremendous mission that we have. And we really can be proud, I think, of what we've accomplished in terms of legislation, supporting entitlements, and all the things that go along with that. It's a great organization. I'm proud to be part of it. Our chapter is proud to be part of it. And we want to help in any way we can. And our chapter, we have a lot of people. I can appreciate some chapters that really have a tough time recruiting. You know, we're a little bit unique in from the perspective that we have everybody that walks in the door, so to speak, is either already a member or certainly knows about MOAA, and they're an easy recruit. But right now we're searching for a few people to fill some vacancies we have on our board. We're working hard on that, and it's a good team. MOAA is very well thought of here at Falcons Landing. Everybody knows who we are. And I didn't mention the gatherings. The gatherings is an activity that we do almost literally once a month. Lieutenant General Bill Hillsman, Army retired, has run our gatherings for quite a while now. And he goes out and recruits people from all walks of life and all corners of our government, military people, non-military, who have a story to tell or have a message to convey, and tell us about their work and what they're doing. So they come in here, usually in the evening, for an hour or so, and talk to. It's open to all residents, and we also have chapter members who live off campus, so they come to our gatherings. And it's a great program. We have a wide variety of topics that we talk about, everything from national security to, we just had a guy, I think, I remember telling you last month when you were here, come in and told us all about how to manage water in the United States, the tremendously important resource that in many cases isn't managed properly. So it's a learning experience, and all of our residents really enjoy that. So the gatherings are a big deal here, and everybody knows that's a MOAA function here. So we make sure that, but that's another example of how we involve ourselves in this community, and people know about us and appreciate what we do.
Colonel Phil Walsh, United States Marine Corps retired, president of the Falcons Landing chapter of the Military Officers Association of America in Sterling, Virginia. Sir, thank you for your service to MOAA, to the Virginia Council of Chapters, and to our nation. And thank you for joining us on our interview series with our Virginia Council of Chapters chapter presidents.
Well, thank you, Link, for giving me the opportunity to tell you and the rest of the Virginia Council about our chapter here at Falcons Landing. We're very proud of it, and we look forward to working with you indefinitely, doing all the good work that MOAA does. And they certainly do that. And thank you for your leadership, Link.